Venerable bhikkhus, brothers and sisters, the subject of the discourse is karma. Buddha defines karma as Chetanaham bhikkhave kammang vadami, as a volition once created before the act of karma is created. That is, the state of mind that made you to commit the act, that is important in karma. And that state of mind is called volition. Volition can be weak, can be strong. Volition becomes weak when it is mixed up with adverse feelings like anger or attachment, even ignorance. Therefore, if you commit a good karma, very effective, forceful karma, the three qualities such karma should possess are: volition is pure, there is no aversion to any person as such in the commission of that act, there is no attachment to anything, it's a pure volitional act. Such an act gives you very forceful results. There are 5 types of karma which are heinous, so to say, acts committed for which you have to subject yourself to suffering in that birth itself. Those 5 acts are causing a bleeding injury on Buddha, killing a Arahat, killing your father and mother, and cause a dissension among the bhikkhu order. These 5 acts are supposed to be classified as heinous crime, which if one commits will have to suffer in that birth itself. The best example we had was Buddha's brother-in-law, who became an enemy of Buddha, and he committed that act by rolling a stone, piece of that stone striking Buddha's leg, creating injury, and he was subject to a birth in the hell world as a result of that act. Arahat Moggallana, prior to his attainment, in previous birth has murdered his mother and father, and he suffered as a consequence of that act for many, many births. Even the last occasion, after he had attained Arahathood, he was subject to an attack by some thieves, which resulted in ending his life. I am not going to give you a description of the various types of crime committed resulting from karma, or various types of karma. Karma is divided into various categories according to the effect such karma creates. We like to go a little deeper into karma. Karma is a force that controls your existence up to the stage till you develop yourself in the attainment of the 3rd stage of non-returner. After that, karma ceases to be committed by you, because for karma, for the commission of karma, there may be present in you desire. Desire controls your births right up to the attainment of non-returner. After that, your birth will be an automatic occurrence in the pure abodes. Up to the attainment of the third stage of non-returner, karma plays a vital role in creating the birth after your death. It's the karma, act of karma, that you will see in your vision prior to your death. Or it may be the result you would have to confront yourself with as a consequence of the karmic act you committed, and that will be again a vision you would see in the nature of a place you will be born, or some such indication to indicate that is the result of a karma which you have committed. And at that stage, when you are dying, when you have lost all sense-based activities, whatever you come across, you create a thought and cling to it. Maybe even the hell world you may see at that time, but still there's no option for you except to cling on to that and create a birth in the hell world resulting from the karma you have committed. That is the nature of karma. One would ask the question, how is it that after you attain to a third stage of development, non-returner, the karma loses its effect on you in the way of creating births, future births. Even till the time or even after your attainment to the final stage of arahathood, past karmas which you have committed have an effect on you that cannot be stopped. Buddha was supposed to have been subject to 11 such karmas which he had committed in previous births, and he suffered. Likewise, even you attain arahathood, the final stage, so long as you are alive, you will be subject to the effect of good and bad karma. But you cease to develop further karma after your attainment to the non-returner. If one asks the question how that happens, because you have got rid of desire in that attainment, and the desire is created by either attachment or aversion. And these are two qualities that make the karma a good karma or a bad karma. If it is a good karma, there will be no aversion or attachment, and the act is obviously done with your full knowledge. If it is a bad karma, either attachment will be there or aversion will be there, or both will be there, and the third, ignorance also will be there. Therefore, karma is an act which you can commit, either a good karma or a bad karma, depending on the mentality you create at the time of the commission of the act. If it is a pure act without any defects or any ill feeling or hatred towards anybody committed by you, then the effect of that karma will be good effect. Subject to the defilement which I mentioned earlier, if you commit an act, you are bound to suffer as a result of that act. Therefore, the karma is a thing that controls your activities in the worldly way. Worldly way means up to the time you are controlled by desire. One can get rid of desire in the attainment of the third stage of non-returner, because aversion and attachment he has completely given up. About 50% in his once-returner stage, and the balance 50% in his non-returner stage. Therefore there is no desire in you now. As such, there is no aversion or attachment, which are the qualities of karma, which certainly has a great effect on the karma you commit. One would ask the question, How is it that these acts which you commit with prior to your attainment of the third stage bring about a return to you in the nature of the reactions resulting from the karma? It's a good act which you commit, you get a good reaction. And if it is something bad, a bad reaction. How does that happen? That happens because your mind, at the time the commission of the act, is not a pure mind. It's a mind, is a worldly mind, with attachment still playing an important role in all your activities. It may be that as a result of your own effort, you can be non-attached. You can also be non-averse to anything. Also you can have a good motive that's purposefully done by you. In any other way, if it's an ordinary event committed without forethought or planning or thinking prior to the commission of the act, you will be subject to any of the weaknesses you are subjected to. Like, let us say, hatred or attachment or aversion or such things can occur to you at the time you create the thought to commit the act. Essential thing in all these karmic activities is at the time of the creation of the thought for the commission of the act, your mind must be pure, clean of all the defilements. Defilements such as hatred and attachment, they can be suppressed by you momentarily. Now you want to give an alms to the poor or to the bhikkhus. You normally a person who is much attached to money. But you can make up your mind. I shall freely spend for the requirements to make this gift to the bhikkhus. And you freely, with a purposeful approach, you freely buy whatever that is they are spending money, not caring to know how much you spend. And that is something which you have yourself knowingly, purposefully avoided, being greedy and being stingy. Then you may be a person who has some ill will or aversion to something that occurs there. And you will be careful not to commit such an act, but keep the mind completely free of such ill will or hatred. And you are really, your faith is developed, your devotion to the act is developed, and in all respects, that act if you commit without all these impediments, these defilements affecting you, you yourself will have to admit that you have committed a very pure act, and that pure act has resulted in committing a good karma. A person who has not attained up to the third stage, he must be mindful of all his acts. Mindfully he can commit a good act, though he is subject to attachment or aversion, because he is mindfully suppressing those two defilements from him and committing the act that is a pure act. That ability is there in you. Very often that happens. The lay people, they offer alms to bhikkhus, and what they do is they purposefully avoid being stingy, greedy. Then also the other aspect of it, aversion, create an aversion to something, maybe a circumstance that has cropped up at the time when you prepare yourself to give the alms, and you pursue that feeling, you have got the adverse feeling, and with that feeling you offer the alms, as a result of which that act which you commit is not a pure act. These things that are creating the impurity in the act are your mental conditions created at the time of the commission of the act or in the preparation of committing of the act. The period that will affect you in the commission of a good act will be the period you have decided to commit the act. and up to the time you have completed performing that act. That's the period you must be careful about. Because any ill feeling towards the act you intend to commit, or misunderstanding, or creation of attachment to a thing, or creation of ill will towards a person who is helping you and participating in the activity you have arranged, such things might occur during that period from the time you have decided to provide the alms to the bhikkhu up to the time you finish that act of providing alms. So one has to be rather careful when committing acts that your mind is free of such adverse circumstances or adverse feelings which a good act can be discolored. Now, therefore, we have the option and we have the ability and the power within us, in spite of the fact that we are not freed from desire, in spite of the fact that we sometimes fall into one or two extremes, either aversion or attachment. But you can commit an act purposefully, being careful not to subject yourself to such adverse feeling. Therefore you can commit a pure act which can give you much benefit as a reaction to that act. And that if you purposefully commit by avoiding these feelings that may discolor the act or make the act a weak act. That is something which you can do. Therefore, but after you attain the third stage, you have got rid of attachment. There doesn't arise in your mind feelings of aversion or attachment. All your acts you commit carefully, mindfully, and awareingly, without any of these defilements that can disturb the purity of the act, or in other words, create adverse effects in the act which you have committed. So that you have to bear in mind. Up to the stage of the development of the third attainment, that is non-returner stage, you have to be careful of all your activities in the way of committing good karma and also controlling yourself, giving in to the commission of bad karma. Desire is a vital circumstance or defilement which controls these activities up to the time of attainment of the third stage. But desire is something which is quite foreign to the mind. You have adopted that, you have maintained desire as a result of committing acts which are promoted by desire and which promote desire. But you have the ability as a person who possesses the consciousness to keep clear of such defilement and commit the act as a pure act. But after you have given up desire, then your mind is free. But as again I emphasize, all the bad acts and good acts that you have committed in the past prior to your attainment to the third stage of non-returner, you are going to subject yourself to the effect of those acts. And I quoted that example, even Buddha had to suffer on 11 occasions resulting from the past karma which he has committed. Karma is one would classify as fate. Very often people consider karma as fate. One would ask the question, for instance, you may have committed a lot of mistakes in your past. Now that you have educated yourself in the religion, and you can now control your mind to see that favorable results are accrued as a result of committing acts. Are you in a position to overcome the bad effects which you have bad effects of karma which you have committed in the past. That is something one has to very carefully consider. If, for instance, let us imagine that you have committed a bad act, and the effect of that bad act may come into force during this birth. You have become a bhikkhu now. Having realized truth, you have given up the lay life, and you are bhikkhu now. Now the question would be, now you are a person who is leading a religious life, in no way committing acts which are supporting karma, or committing or thinking of evil things which support the activity of karma on you. In other words, you are leading a pure life and a good life now. Then one would ask the question, for instance, if you are leading a good life and a good pure life now, could the past karma affect you? It still has effect on you. Maybe it may be not so virulent or very adverse, really meeting the after effects of the karma in the hard way. Maybe because of the circumstances you are in now, being a bhikkhu and leading a life, pure life, such circumstances certainly minimize the effect of the karma. If that reaction took place in a person who still harbors evil, who commits bad acts, you can imagine the amount of suffering he may have to undergo as resulting from that act which he committed in the past. But now, this person has converted himself to a situation where no qualities that can promote the commission of acts creating ill feeling and creating unpleasant circumstances to those around him and who are closely associated with him. He is a bhikkhu. But he may be subject to suffering. I would consider, for instance, though I am a bhikkhu now, I have now developed this sickness, and it is giving me a lot of pain of mind. It is giving me certain reactions from which I suffer daily. I am not an ordinary person who can commit ordinary acts now. It's a way of, let's say, normal existence. One would subject oneself to befitting the age one is in. No, I have a limited movement now, limited scope of living because of this sickness. Therefore I have to admit the fact that I am suffering. Maybe if I wasn't a bhikkhu and if that karma had to react on me, I would have even met with my death, because there was no circumstances that is not effectively minimizing the bad effect of the karma I have committed. And in all force I meet the reaction against me. But if you are a bhikkhu, you are clad in robes, and you are practicing virtue, and your life is a bhikkhu life. It's not a life that promotes, let's say, the commission of bad acts. So though the karma is going to have an effect on you, because of the circumstances you are in, you will still have to face it. The suffering will not be not so hard as you would have had to subject yourself to if the circumstances I have already created in respect of my life did not exist. There may be very minor karma which we commit, and it may be the good life you lead now may not give a chance for such forces to react on you, and the reaction is not created as a result of lack of circumstances to create that reaction. There may be such karma, and they are weak karma. No powerful karma can be avoided. And the best example we have is Buddha, enlightened one, who is completely free of any, even in the nature of our thoughts, creating any ill feeling towards any being in this world. Such a being who is so free, so pure in every respect, had to undergo the effect of bad karma. Therefore, that's why Buddha says, promoting always good karma, sabba papasa akarana, don't commit bad karma. Kusala sopasampada, commit good karma. Gave us this advice because if you commit bad karma, under any circumstances you may have to confront yourself with a situation where you have to suffer as a result of that karma. And if you have committed good karma, well, that will help you, support you. Now there were occasions even arahats had to subject themselves to results of bad karma which they have committed in life. There was an arahat who just could not swallow his food. All the priests are in sympathy with him, everybody trying to help him to eat, but he just cannot pass any food down his throat. And it is said that they dissolve the food in water and then pour it into his mouth. There were circumstances like that. There were circumstances where the effect of bad karma has caused such a depressed feeling in the mind of the arahat that his suffering he could not tolerate. He could not bear up the suffering. And indications were given to the other arahats that he may even commit suicide. There were instances even arahat, Venerable Arahat Sariputta, he approached these monks, spoke to them, advised them, and in fact pleaded not to commit such acts. And in certain circumstances said, don't worry, I will see that you, because of the suffering they had to undergo. And therefore, continuity in this world, even as an arhat, having reached that pure stage of existence, even he is not free from karma. One would ask this question, what is this karma that you refer to? Is it something which is originating from the depth of your heart as a reaction to something? Or it is something that you automatically create on the surface and commit the act and suffer from the ill effect or bad effect or good effect of that act? Karma is what you have created. It's not, so to say, an automatic reaction to an occasion. You commit the karma knowingly. And for the commission of that karma, you have created circumstances in your mind to get that ill effect or suffer from the ill effect of that act which you have committed. It is not a thing that has automatically got created and directed and directed you to commit. No. You knowingly decide. Of course, there may be circumstances that may be influencing his act, but those circumstances are only circumstances placed before him for his due consideration. There is no forceful direction given to you that you must commit this act or that act. No such force is used on you. The entire activity is a voluntary one, and you knowingly commit it. Now, for instance, if one would ask the question, there is a force behind you, and that powerful force, maybe some enemies of yours, gives you a gun and says, shoot that person, gives the order to shoot. But this person, knowing the ill effect of that act, if he commits it, you would say, no, I would not do it. And he may suffer from the circumstances of refusing to carry out the directive given by his enemies. On the other hand, if he just complied with that because enemies had directed him just to save his life, you can well imagine that he can't avoid the ill effect of that act. After all, it's your mind's creation. The purity of the act is what you have created. The impurity of the act is what you have created. One cannot say, because I have to save my life, I committed this act. That may be a circumstance, for instance, in a court of law. If one has to be tried, for him to point out and get some consideration for what he has done. Because circumstances led him to commit such an act because he was under the power of somebody who would cause his death. And in that circumstances he may have committed that omission. But where karma is concerned, you still have to face that reaction. Maybe that circumstances were not fully in agreement to consider that act as something heinous, because in his mind he knew that he was not doing the right thing. But through fear, he did that. But fact remains that you committed the act and somebody suffered as a result. Therefore, reaction is felt. In that too, if you apply the rule, Chetanaham bhikkhave kammang vadhami, you can evaluate the motive he had in committing that act at the time when he was directed to do so by some other party. And through fear of his death, through other circumstances which he could not avoid, he committed the act. But certainly those are not circumstances that may completely help you to evade or avoid the reaction of that karma. Karma is something very wonderful, and I should say is entirely your volition. How you decide? Now there was an instance where supposed to have been a boy who aimed a stone at a fruit to pluck that, but the stone struck the bird that was resting on the branch and fell dead. The boy took the dead body of this bird, and was quite happy. Oh, I am very happy that I killed this bird, and instead of getting that fruit. Yeah, he committed the full crime of causing the death of that bird. On the other hand, in a similar act, his boy finds that as a result of the throwing of the stone, it has reacted on killing a bird, innocent bird. And he did his best to recover that bird and felt very sorry about the incident. Now imagine the two situations. One, when he committed that act, he was quite happy that he committed that act because he was happy to see the bird dead. On the other hand, there was this other boy who was very miserable as a result of seeing what had happened, resulting from the stone he threw at the tree. And he repented. I don't think he will suffer from that act. There was a case of that blind Arahat who was walking the entire night up and down, trampling and causing the death of many insects, thousands of them, pink ants or something like that. And there was a normal discussion among the bhikkhus. Now this bhikkhu has killed so many insects, not voluntarily, because he did not observe them, neither he felt that they were there at the time he was walking, but the result of his walk up and down that night was causing the death of thousands of insects. And Buddha decided that he was not aware of the act he was committing. He was innocently walking. Therefore, there was no bad karma committed by him, because the volition is a pure volition where there was no bad feeling affecting that volition. He was just mildly walking up and down, but unfortunately he has trampled the insects and caused their death. Likewise, when you are walking along the road, maybe that you trample an insect without unawares and cause the death of that insect, but you are not responsible for that act. That is the sort of karma which we are confronted with. It plays a vital role in the human world, even in the animal world. In any world, they say to be born a deity also you must commit good karma. Even to be born in the luminous world where you have to commit a good karma in the way of meditation, that's also good karma. And that helps you. Not the direct effect of the good karma you committed, but the direct effect of the karma resulting from a transcendent mind has led him to be born in that luminous world. This is Karma, Buddha says, don't think of karma. Because you cannot strictly say that this will be the result of what you have done. And it's true. One had to make a proper assessment to the temperament of the person at the time when he committed that act. It's rather difficult for one to go into that aspect of one's life, you see, to exactly assess whether he had a criminal outlook or whether he was unaware of what he was doing, or that he thought of something else, but this is the result of that act. But that thought he gave to this earlier is something completely innocent, and he never thought that he would see a result like this when he gave the consent. But there are many circumstances like that. And one cannot draw a line and say this act is a karmic act which one has to confront himself with all the reactions. This act is, though he has committed a crime, he is not going to suffer from it. One cannot clearly define these boundaries, because after all your mind is involved. And it's rather difficult for one outside to assess your mind. Even you yourself would not know what you have been doing at the time you committed that act, resulting from this harm that you have done to another. Therefore, Buddha says, one cannot, it's something beyond the thinking of the human being. But you have to be careful not to harm even an insect, because such harm would react against you. And there are a lot of variations to this. A lot of other circumstances that are for and against suffering you may have to undergo as a result of an act. And it's so varied, you see, rather difficult for me to describe them in detail. But one thing that you have to bear in mind is no Arhat commits bad acts. He is pure. Even if, for instance, as a result of a certain voluntary act which he has committed, which has resulted in something adverse to somebody, well, it is not a direct effect which he has caused in the other person, but maybe an indirect effect that man is subject to as a result of the Arhat's act. Arhat is pure in all his activity. He would not harm anybody, but he is very honest and completely honest. He is ujucha and sujucha, that is, in every respect, he is above the ordinary being. And his honesty is more than honesty, one should say. His mental condition is pure, and is more than pure. And he would never think of, let's say, harming anybody, because that is the evolution he has gone through and reached that state of purity which is above any criticism, above any adverse effect. And he is pure and innocent person. But though he has reached that height, still he can be subject to the effects of bad karma which he has committed. So we can go on discussing this subject very far. Now that the bell has rung for us to attend to the puja, we'll stop the discussion further, and may you all attain Nibbana. Thank you very much.